Hi, all. This is Arun Pandey, and today we are going to talk about emotional intelligence. And I believe that this is a very important topic because most of the time managers are facing a lot of challenges, and then even individual like the team members are facing a lot of problems at their workplace, and all this happens due to the different set of emotions because we are the people and people are with emotions, right? That is what it is very important. And since we are spending most of our time at workplace, it's very important that we understand the emotions and then we manage them well. So being a manager or being a lead, when you are actually doing the people management, it's your responsibility to understand the your emotions, your own emotions, and manage them well. And you can understand and then manage the others' emotions too. So why it's been important, understanding and managing your own emotions. It is important because whenever you are actually talking with your team, interacting with your team at your workplace, it should not happen that if you are having some anxiety or depression or any anger, within you, it's reflecting to your team members. Because if this is happening, then you are actually, creating the toxicity at your workplace, and it's going to harm your team. So that is the reason, self-evaluation is very important, and self-evaluation in terms of this emotional, you know, emotional parameter. And the same way, we have to understand the team's emotions as well, because the team is actually it's a mixed set of people. They are having a different set of problems, and then maybe some conflicts is they are having within individuals or within a team member. So those things, we should understand, how they'll feel when being a manager. If I'll talk something, how they'll take these things. So you have to understand all those factors, all those situations, and then you should be ready to understand these parameters and should address all those things. So that is the reason, this emotional intelligence is very important, because being a manager, if you're having the emotional intelligence, probably you can identify and you can apply them to fix all those problems. So there are different categories, we can say. It's like being a manager, you should have the self-awareness, means the ability to recognize an emotions as it happens. Because if an emotion had occurred and you are identifying in a very late time, it's definitely the problem has been spread out, and you are entering to fix it in a very you know later stage. So that's the reason it's very important that you understand the emotion. So it's like emotional awareness, and your self confidence. So these two factors are actually giving you the empowerment by which you are having this ability to identify the emotions as it happens. And this is important, to identify your own emotions and to others as well. The second thing we can say it's very important is that the self-regulation. Because if, as I mentioned before, that if you are going with anxiety or depression or any anger, maybe something happens to your home, and you got panic, maybe while traveling from home to office, and so on. There could be n factors, right? So you have to understand all those things, and then your self regulation should be powerful enough so that you're not reflecting all those things at your workplace. And similar wise, you have to understand that what are the regulatory factors you are applying to fix all those things, so that when a team member or an individual is facing the same problem, you are actually advising them accordingly. So what I can see in self-regulation is that self-control is pretty important. trustworthiness is very important, because if you are interacting with your team, or you are asking them to uh, uh, you know tell what the problem they are facing, or when you are interacting with them to understand their uh, emotions, I can say, then it's very important that you trust them what they are telling. So trustworthiness, you should have the adaptability as well, so that you can handle the change. Maybe your team member is having some problem, and to fix that, probably you should go with some other situation where you wanted to apply something. So you should be ready, well in advance. You should know that these things may occur, and then I can apply some changes as well. So adaptability is a very very important aspect. The innovation is very important aspect, because sometimes your team member is feeling frustrated, because he is not liking the ideas, or he's not liking something to do which he has been asked to do. So being a manager, it's your responsibility to understand his concerns, and then you should be innovative enough so that you can listen his or her ideas. So that is what, like, being open to new ideas, I can say. uh, Apart from that, the other point which I feel is very important is that the motivation. Being a leader, or being a manager, it's your responsibility to stay motivated always, because and then motivate others as well. Because if you are leading a team, it's your responsibility that whatever situation is occurring, you should not feel bad, or you should not feel down, or your anger or those things should not get reflected, and you should stay motivated, and you should have the trust within your team. So motivation is a very important thing, and you should understand that if you are motivated enough, you should communicate accordingly to your team member as well, so that they feel motivated as well. Next point is empathy. Empathy is nothing but, we can say, it's an ability, again, to recognize how people actually feel. Because when we are talking about the emotions, it's very important to understand that your team member, how good or bad they are feeling, that is what you're going to recognize or identify, so that when you are interacting with the guy, or when you are actually you know uh, listening to the guy, you are pretty much understanding his concern or her concern. So that is very important. And how you can basically make it happen. Probably the service orientation is one important aspect for empathy. When I say service orientation, means we have to understand that what are the services we are offering, being a team, and then what are the changes we can have, and then how exactly we can make the things happen in a better way. So that like, because if someone is feeling in a different way, we have to understand that the service orientation approach is not failing, because what we are delivering, that should get delivered. That is very important agenda, right, for any team. So that is what, when you are recognizing or identifying the emotions of your team member, you are learning about that. The service orientation is another important, that is not get impacted. Another thing is that developing others. When you are actually dealing with identifying the emotions of others, or recognizing the emotions of others, it's very important that you are having that mindset that you should get that freedom, or that leverage, where an individual should feel enough motivated, and you are giving a right platform to the guy, so that he can develop himself or herself. Another thing is that the diversity, leveraging the diversity, because in your team, it's a huge possibility that you are going to have a mixed set of people, where some people may be very advanced with the technologies and the stuff, and someone may not, or maybe some people have very good communication, someone may not. all those aspects are there. So we have to understand that this is the diversity, and then we have to understand all those factors, and then the collaboration and other stuff should get applied so that people are learning from each other's, and then they are managing the diversity as well. Understanding others, so as I mentioned, that empathy is a very important aspect of recognizing the individual's emotions or how they feel about for anything. So understanding the team member is definitely a very very important aspect. The other very important factor is the social skills, because interpersonal skills, you can say, because being a manager, that is a very very important thing. You are someone who is actually communicating to the team, listening to the team. So if you don't have that ability where you can listen to others, and then you are interrupting always, or dominating to your team members, definitely you are not a good manager, and you don't have this emotional intelligence. Because if you can't listen well, you can't understand the emotions. If you can't understand, definitely you can't address them, or you can't manage them. So this interpersonal skills is basically listening others. A good communicator, we can say. When I say good communicator, means communicate whatever you are communicating with a clear message, and then it should not happen that you are taking a side of someone, and then the other team members are feeling bad about that. This guy is always do the favorism. So all those things should not happen when you are communicating. You should have the influencing nature. Why influencing nature? Because if you are a manager, you should not be dominating, because dominating is someone, dominating is the attribute which is can give a perception to others, especially to your team members, that this guy is not capable, but he is just pushing, forcing, or it's like making things in such a way by which we are getting asked something to do which we don't feel to do. So the influence people are like they apply the things in such a way where they create a path on which they walk first, and then they ask team to follow that path. So you can say it's another way, like that being a true leader, I can say. uh, so the next point, I can say, the leadership, which I was just talking about. It's like if you can't inspire and you can't guide your team member when they need you, you can't be a good manager. And then this emotional intelligence gives you that attribute by which you are getting the leadership. Because when you are thinking about the emotions, it's like people are always feeling that their manager or leader will be standing beside to him or her for whatever they are asking, the help and all. And that is what the leadership is all about. The change catalyst, when I say change catalyst, means if you are asking n things to do to your team, they'll do, or they may not be do. But the problem is that if you are a change catalyst, then you have to apply the things first, do it, and then ask people to do. In that way, people will feel that the manager is he is doing it, and then only is asking me to do. So we are having the path. We know that we know how to do the things. um, Conflict management is a very important thing, and that is very important thing for the emotional intelligence as well. Because most of the time it happens that the disagreement happens within the team. Like one person may be doing in a different manner something, and then another person is doing in a different manner. Both are having a conflict, but sometimes manager doesn't know, or if he knows, he thinks it as a very granted way, that okay, fine, people will deal with that. That is the way we should work, or whatever, because his mindset is why should I look at all those aspects. But it's very important to resolve those conflicts, because being a manager, it's your responsibility to look at all those aspects. You should talk with the people, and then you should address all those things, so that people don't feel disagreed with each other. They may disagree, but the conflict should not happen in such a way by which it is creating a huge distance within the team members, and that's the emotions we should understand, that if someone is telling being a team member in a forum something, what kind of impact it is creating, and then we should reevaluate being a manager, and then we should do the analysis, and then probably we should come up with some other guidelines or some other approaches to make the things more clear and then convenient for others. Building bonds is a very important aspect, because you can understand the emotions of others only when you are actually creating a bond, with your team members. Why I emphasize here, because you could be an expert for everything, but if you don't have a good bonding, if you don't have a good trust, you're not going to get anything from your team member. So it's very important that you build a good bond, create a good bond with your team members, so that you can understand the emotions, right, and then only you could be able to address anything, whatever they are facing. Collaboration and cooperation, that is very important aspect again, because if your team will collaborate and cooperate to each other, they'll feel that it's a team, so that the team itself is having that ability, so they are dealing with each other's emotions. So if someone is down, or someone is feeling bad, someone is angry, or someone is having some sort of anxiety, then it's the team member itself, since they are collaborating enough, they are reading it well, they are knowing it well, that okay, this guy is having some problem, I think, and then how to make him happy, or how to make the thing convenient for him or her. So that is very important, collaboration, and cooperation is actually bringing this kind of platform where actually we are understanding the emotions of each others and addressing them accordingly. uh, the team capabilities, the being a manager, it's a responsibility that we are understanding the capabilities of a team, because if you don't understand the capability of your team, you are actually a kind of failure, because the emotions are actually getting impacted. If suppose someone can deliver n items in a day, and you're asking someone to deliver n plus one, the people will never say no, maybe, or maybe he's telling and you're not listening, and so on. I mean, there could be n factors. I'm not going to talk about all those things, but somehow you are not certain about the team capabilities, and then you are demanding more, and then maybe demanding in a different way, so that the team is feeling panic, and in that situation the emotion of team is going in a negative direction, and it is going to create a bad culture within your team. So these are some attributes which are very important for a manager, and these are the way by which you can uh, uh, have that skill set or ability to understand the emotions of your team members. And as I mentioned before, that it's very important to understand and then regulate your own emotions being a manager, because you should not reflect whatever has happened to you throughout the day, so you should be calm and cool. That is very important. And then should be very good communicator, a good listener, and that's all. I mean, so my advice is, like whenever someone is getting promoted as a manager, or someone is getting hired as a manager, I think the top management, whoever is hiring them or promoting them, should understand that the person who is coming as a manager is having these skill sets or not, these attributes or not, so that they are not facing the problems later on, because team is someone who is actually going to deliver something in a concrete way, and if you are not understanding them well, you are actually going to have a huge problem, and that's what it's very important. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Enjoy.